In 378, the Roman army of the East was destroyed by invading Goths. Citizens were sold into slavery and refugees fled to the west. Ambrose acted decisively, establishing shelters and providing food and care in Milan, and sending agents to the slave markets to buy and free citizens. To pay for all this, he smashed the gold and silver chalices and plate of the church. In this vignette, Ambrose remembers and defends his decisions against his detractors.
Here we have a shining example of the principle that we should each think not of our own interests, but of the interests of others. If we follow this principle, we shall never give in to our feelings when we are angry, or concede any more than is just as a favor to our own wishes.
The greatest encouragement to show mercy comes from sharing in others' misfortunes and endeavoring to bring help to our neighbors when they are going through times of need, helping as much as we can and sometimes more than we can. After all, it is better to give people grounds to criticize you or to suffer their disapproval for seeking to show mercy than to display a lack of compassion. This was what happened to us on one occasion. We incurred disapproval because we had broken up sacred vessels in order to ransom prisoners. In actual fact, it was not so much the deed itself that annoyed them. They had simply come upon something for which they could criticize us. But who could be so hard-hearted, so unfeeling, and so insensitive as to be annoyed to see a man being saved from death, or to see a woman being saved from being violated by barbarians, a fate worse than death itself, or to see young people and small boys and infants being saved from the pollution of idols, which was the defilement to which they were being reduced in their fear of death?
We had every reason to handle this matter as we did, but we put it to the people this way. We argued with all our powers that it was far more advantageous to preserve souls for the Lord than to preserve gold. For the one who sent the apostles out without gold assembled the churches without gold. The church has gold, not to preserve it for itself, but to dispense it, to provide people with assistance in times of need. What is the point of guarding something which brings no help to anyone? Is it not better for the priests to melt it down to provide food for the poor, if other sources of relief fail, than for a sacrilegious enemy to desecrate it and carry it off? Is not the Lord himself going to say to us, "Why did you allow so many needy people to die of hunger? You had gold after all. You should have provided them with food. Why were so many of the prisoners taken away to be sold? And why were so many not ransomed but left to be killed by the enemy? Far better to have preserved vessels that were living than to have kept ones made of metal."
Here are vessels that really are precious, the vessels that ransom souls from death. Here is the real treasure of the Lord, the treasure that achieves just what his blood itself achieved. It is then that the vessel of the Lord's blood is recognized, when you see redemption in the vessel as well as in its contents, and the chalice redeems from the enemy those whom his blood has redeemed from sin. What a wonderful sight to see whole lines of prisoners ransomed by the church, and to hear it said, "These are the ones Christ redeemed." Here is gold that we can really approve. Here is gold that is truly beneficial. Here is the gold of Christ that delivers from death. Here is the gold by which virtue is redeemed.
Well, these were the people I chose to hand over to you as free individuals, rather than keep back gold. The glory of this great company of prisoners, of this train, is greater than the beauty of any cups.
The Mass for the Feast of St. Ambrose of Milan will be celebrated today at 4 o'clock in Christ the King Chapel on the campus of St. Ambrose University. The homily will be given by Father Robert Budd Grant, co-director of the Academy for the Study of St. Ambrose of Milan and professor of theology. It will be live streamed so that Ambrosians everywhere may participate. Please join us.